Hi. This is our NBA Draft Special, and it's going to be special, about as special as our LA basketball teams. Spoiler alert, they're not special. Meanwhile, the LA Galaxy get called out for not playing with effort. Again. And the Sparks are set to match their season-high winning streak of 2. Ooh, pinch me. Hi, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is Faithful Angelenos. It's June 23rd, 2022. Once again, I am hauled off and locked away in a black market prison somewhere in middle America, not to see the light of day. But what the hell, let's talk some sports. What do you say? Now, if you like the content we've been putting out about LA sports for the last 4 months, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. We put out a new video between 9 and 10 a.m. every day to let you know it's there. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And yes, comment. For Pete's sake, I'm sitting by myself in a semi-darkened room. I need to hear from humans. It would be nice. Now, before we start talking NBA draft, let's go through the scoreboard from yesterday. Freddie Freeman's on a tear. He hit his 7th home run of the year last night. He went 2 for 4, drove in a couple of runs, scored twice. Dodgers 8, Reds 4. Dodgers, by the way, tied for first place in the NL West. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers will play Cincinnati at 9:35 this morning. Clayton Kershaw, he's 4-1. He will face Hunter Green, 3-7 for the Reds. And we mentioned again that the Sparks are trying to actually create a winning streak. They will play at 7:30. They host Chicago. Side note for the Sparks, Nanika Ogwumike, she has been selected as a starter for the WNBA All-Star Game, which will be held July 10th in Chicago. Get your tickets now. Or probably not. What do you say we talk a little NBA draft? Now, I want to set you guys straight on something. You're going to hear a lot of rumors today. Just tons. And I would argue that 90% at a minimum is going to be absolute, complete crap, particularly when it comes to the Lakers. But we'll get to that in a moment. I want to start off talking about the Clippers because they actually have a draft pick. They pick 43rd. Lakers at this moment do not have one. Now, the LA Times noted that the Clippers actually usually make a move on draft night. They've done so every draft night since 2015. They'll trade picks, they'll trade players, they'll buy picks. But honestly, I see that streak coming to an end tonight. If you think about it, this is a roster that doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of holes. Their biggest roster concern right now, aside from keeping Paul George and Kawhi Leonard healthy, is keeping Nicholas Batum. You know, he opted out of his contract with the hopes that the Clippers might triple it as a bird rule player. So you could say, well, maybe they want a point guard, right? But do you see an elite point guard at pick 43? Because I don't. And then you're sitting there asking yourself, would you potentially break up the roster to move up from 43 to get a guy who would start at point guard as a rookie? Does that make a lot of sense? No, it doesn't. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're probably going to stand pat. Now, regarding Nicholas Batum, you're seeing a lot of stories online that claims all these other teams are interested. Oh my God, the Knicks want him. Oh, the Celtics want him. You even hear about that, the Lakers really want him. Here's my counter argument to all of those stories that you're seeing online. Quote, I'm sticking with Tyronn Lue until he wants to get rid of me. Now, does that sound like a man who wants to leave the Clippers? Of course not. So no, that's not going to happen. He's basically trying to see if he can get the bird rights to kick in, increase his salary to $10 million, and go on with his life. Now, assuming the Clippers stay at 43, I've looked at 4 mock drafts that I trust that actually have gone into the second round. And all 4 of them have the Clippers taking different people. And different positions, I might add. You have one guy saying that the Clippers will take Christian Braun, a 6'7" shooting guard out of Kansas. You have another guy saying that they'll take Jean Montero, a point guard from a group called Overtime Elite. You have another guy saying they'll take Dom Barlow, also from Overtime Elite. He is a 6'10" forward. And then you have another group saying that they're going to take Justin Lewis, a forward from Marquette. So we don't know. The Clippers, in my opinion, are probably going to go best player available. Now let's talk the Lakers. Again, they don't have a draft pick. They might try to purchase their way into the draft. We've heard scuttlebutt on it, but because they're not in, we have no idea what they're going to do if they actually get into in any mock draft. But the Kyrie Irving story at this juncture just won't die, and it should. Because as we talked about yesterday, they're not going to trade for Kyrie. Brooklyn, as a starting point, wants Anthony Davis. The Lakers aren't going to do that. So there's one other option if Kyrie really wants to be a Laker. His contract has an option this year for $36 million. So the theory, according to people who should know better, is that Kyrie opts out and signs with the Lakers. Here's the problem. You're saying that Kyrie Irving is going to turn down $36 million for a $6 million contract. You are asking him to give up $30 million. $30 million. I don't care how much you hate your job. They cut you a $30 million check. You are there. You are the happiest guy ever. You are kissing everybody's ass for that $30 million. There is nothing sensible about turning down $36 million for $6. Absolutely nothing. And Kyrie Irving does have a lengthy history of really strange behavior. But losing $30 million just so he can come to the West Coast, and by the way, play with LeBron James, who he had a problem with at one point, stop it. Screw your head on straight, guys. Now, we do have prospects from the local colleges. The most likely ones to get selected tonight, both would probably be in the second round. Isaiah Mobley of USC and Peyton Watson of UCLA. Now, Peyton Watson is an interesting case because he only played 1 year at UCLA. He did not even start. He only averaged 3 points per game. He is a 6'8" wing from Long Beach Poly. And yet, he is the best NBA prospect of a pretty strong UCLA team. Johnny Juzang a couple of years ago was considered a lottery pick. Then all of a sudden, everybody else started getting more information on him, and I doubt he's going to get drafted. Same for Jules Bernard. Apparently, it's going to be Watson, if anybody. Manager Greg Vanney did not pull any punches about the LA Galaxy's 2-1 loss to Sacramento Republic in the U.S. Open Cup on Tuesday night. He called them out for a lack of intensity, said, quote, "That can't happen." Here's my problem. We've heard this before. We heard it literally 1 month ago. There was a headline, quote, literally 1 month ago today, Chicharito demands improvement from the LA Galaxy. And where are we? Same damn place. We have to ask ourselves as Galaxy fans some very tough questions over the next few weeks. Now, a lot of people are hashtagging Klein out for Chris Klein, the guy who's the president of the club. And I would be one of those guys who would agree that Klein probably should go. But I'm a realist. He's not going anywhere. And here's why. He is going to get credited, whether he deserves it or not, for bringing the World Cup back to Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium. He was quoted heavily in a bunch of articles about the World Cup coming back. Like it was his idea all along, which is silly, but he's going to be using that on his resume. So I don't think he's going anywhere. So we have to ask ourselves some very unfortunate questions about the limits of fandom. We mentioned the Dodgers score earlier. Edwin Rios, by the way, of the Dodgers, he has moved from the 10-day to the 60-day injured list. He has a right hamstring tear. It occurred on June 3rd. Stefan Romero comes up. He's actually got a bit of an interesting story. He had a cup of coffee. He was once a high prospect for the Mariners, but that didn't pan out. Then all of a sudden he spends a few years in Japan, decides to come back, signs a minor league contract. It's an interesting story. I just don't see him making a big impact with LA. I don't. Somebody that could make an impact, a 3-star athlete, Cade Eldridge of Washington. He is committed to playing for USC. Now, he's referred to as an athlete in recruiting circles. He wasn't labeled with a position as a recruit. So, SC sees him as a tight end, which may very well be the case. He's the second recruit for the class of 2023 to join the USC this week. You might remember last weekend, USC just had this big, massive recruiting blowout on campus, brought a whole bunch of people by, tried to impress these kids. And over the weekend, on USC's Twitter account, they did the fight on symbol 4 times. Now, when they do the fight on symbol during the off season, it's a signal that they've landed a recruit. So we know who 2 of the 4 are. Who are the others? Time will tell. Finally, Rams coach Sean McVay is getting a statue. Not at SoFi Stadium, at Miami of Ohio. And I got to tell you something. It tells me a lot about, you learn something about schools, about what they excel at and what they don't excel at. Miami of Ohio, in terms of their players, they kind of stink. Have you ever heard of Miami of Ohio being anywhere near the top 25? But you may suck as a player, but you'll leave learning how to coach. Because not only Sean McVay, John Harbaugh, and Weeb Eubank, both who have coached Super Bowl winning teams, along with Sean McVay, all went to Miami of Ohio. Fun little factoid. Now, having said that, by the time you watch this video, there's probably going to be about 90 billion Laker rumors flying around your Twitter feed, and we'll have to just do our best to swat down every one. If you enjoyed today's episode of Faithful Angelenos, don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to build something here for LA Sports. I'm James. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.